Okay, so tell us a little bit about Tension Square.
Right, well, it's a play essentially about courage, the courage of a young woman, Marigold, who has cancer and is contemplating what's going to happen at the end of her life with the disease and what options she has. And while she's in hospital thinking this over, she comes across a young man, Alex, who has his own problems. He is being abused, actually, at home by his girlfriend, and he doesn't know how to get out of it. He's very embarrassed about it. Marigold is a knitwear designer. She discovers that Alex has a history with knitting from one of his elderly relatives, his favourite granddad. And through knitting, she starts to get to the bottom of his problems, and together they try to find a way for him to get out of it. And in doing so, she solves a few of her own problems as well. There are a few other characters involved. Her friend Dee, who's in the hospital with her, and her beloved brother Jed. And then, of course, we have Livy, Alex's girlfriend, who is not a monster. She just has some very, very tricky issues of her own, and we try to explore that in the play.
And what made you write the play?
I really wanted to write something that was quite issue driven. I originally sort of thought of this idea in Edinburgh, strangely enough. I was in a wool shop. I was poorly myself. I was recovering from an operation on my foot, and I could hardly walk, and I got a taxi cab to a beautiful wool shop called K1, which sadly isn't open anymore, though the company exists. And I got my wool, and I went next door to a cafe, and I happened to sort of look up, and I was looking at a notice board and reading about abuse of men, which I really didn't know existed, and that there are absolutely no refuges for men in Scotland at all, hardly any in the UK period, and that guys actually struggle with this very much alone. And I thought, oh my gosh, and all of a sudden I decided that this was something I wanted to write about. Coming from a family who have been beset with cancer, terminal cancer over the last few years, I think I've seen some of the arguments for and against assisted suicide. So this is something that is very, very current in my life, sadly. But I think that must be the same for a lot of people. Cancer being cancer and affecting so many families. I think that this becomes an issue and will continue to do so. It was something that I felt quite passionate to write about. It was originally a TV piece, and I'd had a comment that actually that it would work better in theatre, and I parked it on the back burner for a bit. And I was out having lunch with a friend of mine. I knew her daughter, now an adult, had been a child actor. And I said, is Elizabeth still acting? She said, absolutely. And desperate to take something, a new piece of writing, to Edinburgh Fringe. And I found myself putting down my knife and fork and saying, I think I've got something. And that's how we started.
So who are Chameleon Productions?
Chameleon Productions is a new theatre company formed to take Tension Square to the Edinburgh Fringe, and we will be previewing the show at Ellesmere College in Shropshire at the end of June. I was introduced to a fabulous young group of actors from Bournemouth and showed them the play script. They liked it. We decided that we wanted to do this. We came back to Shropshire and recruited another couple of actors who are also with us from Shropshire, and so it's quite appropriate, I think, that we preview the show at Ellesmere before taking it to Edinburgh, where the show has its roots, really, because that was where I first thought of the idea.
So what is the connection with Ellesmere?
Right, well, I moved to Shropshire a few years back, and strangely enough I worked at Ellesmere College as a house mother for quite a few years, so at this school. And when I decided to leave, it was because I had this hankering to go back to writing, felt absolutely compelled to do so. But I'd always written it for advertising and marketing, and I wanted to do writing for screen and for theatre. Didn't know which at the time. And a couple of the masters at the school were very, very supportive and helped me get back into university to do a master's at Media City campus of Salford University. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And my love of theatre has resurrected. I last stepped off a stage of Edward Bond's The Sea 30 years ago, and here I am back again because I've been persuaded to act in this production as well. So, yeah, it's cool. It's a lovely experience, and we just hope that everybody likes it as much as we've come to love it.